The Biden administration is missing the bigger picture with the wars that it continues to fund. You see, it would be easy to say that we're fighting proxy wars with the likes of Iran and Russia, but what if I told you that there's another country behind the scenes that's actually pulling the strings? One that's actually funding the Houthis indirectly, a group that continues to attack the US troops and container ships going through the Red Sea. I know that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but watch until the end of this video. I swear it's all going to make sense to you. The problem is, it's also going to show you just how tough life will soon be for many Americans as we all see the ill effects of this war sooner rather than later.
The war in Gaza is spilling into the Red Sea. Missile attacks from Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militants are disrupting shipping in one of the world's busiest trading routes, and that's threatening to push up energy prices. Companies, including the shipping container giant Maersk, have just stopped using the Red Sea. Instead, they're taking alternative routes around Africa, and that could add weeks to journey times. The Houthi militants say they're attacking any ship with links to Israel, as they support Hamas in its war against the country. They've conducted multiple missile attacks and also attempted to board and seize ships, though for the most part, that's been unsuccessful. And this isn't the first time that the group has targeted commercial shipping, but what we're seeing now is almost daily attacks on cargo vessels and tankers going through that Red Sea route. And the Red Sea is vital because it is the only route to the Suez Canal, which links Asia and Europe. Around 12% of global trade passes through the canal, which represents about 30% of the world's container traffic. And that route has become even more important following the invasion of Ukraine for the transport of oil, particularly for Russia's own exports. US and other Western warships have responded to multiple distress signals from ships in the Red Sea, helping them to repel attacks from these Houthi militants.
Looking at the bigger picture, we can see how this will affect millions of Americans, especially those who are already struggling with their finances. You see, this is going to affect supply chains, and just like you heard, it's going to affect the price of gas. In fact, gas prices recently spiked because BP has said that they're going to avoid the Red Sea until things are safe, especially given the fact that attacks from Houthi militants from Yemen continue to plague the area. The fear is that it might not end with BP though. We may see other big names announce that they're taking longer yet safer routes just to ensure that they actually get to their destination with the cargo safe and sound. Now, of course, this opens up the possibility of shortages when it comes to many different supplies. But one thing is for sure, prices are going to go up. Now, I want to ask you guys, are you ready for even higher prices than what we're facing today at the pump? Whether it be Chevron, Shell, QT, BP, whatever gas station you're at. In the same light, are you ready to pay even more than you do now in the grocery stores at Krogers, Walmart, or Target? Tell you what, comment 1 if you feel like these higher prices won't even phase your wallet at all. You got this. It's not going to be a big deal. But comment number 2 if you expect price increases will be pretty high and will affect your budget personally. And while you guys are thinking about that, don't forget to drop a like for the video. I really do appreciate the support. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We need to get more people here at home aware of this information that's happening right here in the United States. Appreciate that, guys. Now, what I'm going to say next might surprise you, but these attacks that we continue to see may actually be funded by China. That's right, guys, China. So hear me out. Who's backing these Houthi militants? They're telling us it's Iran, right? Time and time again, we've heard Houthis and Iran paired together in mainstream media and the news outlets, basically linking them to each other. Now, what does Iran have that China needs? A commodity that they're willing to pay good money for? That's right, guys, oil. So China is Iran's #1 customer when it comes to crude oil. And just within the first 10 months of this year, they bought an average of 1.05 million barrels per day, 60% above pre-sanctioned peaks recorded by Chinese customs in 2017. You see what's happening over there, right? With China buying up all this oil, they're enabling Iran to continue funding attacks, to continue funding militants to disrupt the Red Sea, to disrupt energy prices, to disrupt our lives as we know it. But the US isn't sitting idly by. I mean, we have been shooting down their drones, right?
Just over the weekend, an American destroyer, the USS Carney, intervened when multiple commercial ships were attacked by missiles and drones in the Red Sea. Iran-backed Houthi rebels from Yemen claimed responsibility for at least 2 of these attacks. Meanwhile, Israel says it's expanding its ground war inside Gaza against Hamas. The military is now urging residents and Palestinians who evacuated northern Gaza to also evacuate parts of southern Gaza as well. Question is, where do they go? We'll have more on the Israeli offensive shortly from Chris Livesay, who's monitoring it from Jerusalem. But begin now with Ed O'Keefe, who's been following the attacks in the Red Sea. Ed, good morning. The USS Carney has been a little too busy for comfort. What do we know?
That's right, Tony. Good morning. Happy Monday. This is the latest series of attacks by the Iranian-backed Houthis in the region since the start of the Israel-Hamas war, and signals yet again how U.S. and international ships continue to be targeted or forced to respond to the attacks. According to U.S. Central Command, over the span of more than 4 hours, the USS Carney responded to distress calls from 3 commercial vessels, owned and operated by multiple countries, that were struck by missiles launched from the Houthi-controlled areas within Yemen. The Carney is a Navy destroyer sent to the region for protection and as a deterrent. It shot down 3 drones heading in its direction, but the Pentagon says it cannot assess at this time whether the Carney was a target. The Houthis claimed credit for the attacks, as the Pentagon says the group represents, quote, a direct threat to international commerce and maritime security, adding that while these attacks were launched by the Houthis, the group is fully enabled by Iran and that the U.S. will consider all appropriate responses. Now, also on Sunday, a U.S. defense official says the U.S. carried out a drone strike in Iraq after seeing that preparations were underway for an attack on U.S. service members there. Since mid-October, there have been at least 74 attacks on U.S. forces, Nate, in Iraq and Syria.
However, the Pentagon is worried that we may be spending too much money just to stop these attacks. So what, give up now? A write-up from Politico shows that for every Houthi drone, estimated to be worth around $2,000, the U.S. Navy destroyers have been shooting naval missiles that cost upwards of $2.1 million. Not a good rate of return there. But let me repeat this, guys. We're shooting down $2,000 drones with $2 million missiles. There's got to be a cheaper way of doing this here, right? Just let that sink in for a second. Now, to date, and as of this recording, we've spent nearly $80 million within the last 2 months, okay, for these drones. Wow, unbelievable. And by the time I publish this video, we're pretty much sure to see even more of these missiles being used with multiple DoD officials, Department of Defense, who, under the guise of anonymity, have said that the money being used here is a growing concern, adding that the cost offset is not on our side. In fact, one former DoD official said that us using our $1 million missiles are working in favor of the Houthis. It's kind of like hustling backwards, and that the Pentagon needs to find a way to defeat these drones with methods that are within the same line of cost. And again, these $2,000 drones are indirectly being funded by China, a member of the BRICS nations. Now, if we just take a step back for a second, which country has shown interest in joining this coalition that mainly wants to get rid of the Western hedge money? You got Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and of course, Iran. Do you guys now see how this is going along? The United States under the Biden administration has been so focused on Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan, Gaza, Santa Claus, that they've pretty much just forgotten all about China. It's like China's playing chess while we're over here playing checkers, and we're losing. And when I say we, I mean it. Who do you think is funding all of this from our side? Do you think the House of Representatives is funding it? The Senate? The White House? No. We are funding all of this through our taxpayer money. And what do we get in return? Well, as I said, and as you guys will probably see in the near future, our money will ultimately lead to higher gas prices, higher prices at the grocery stores, and unending conflicts in different parts of the world. Now, the question is, can we really afford to keep this going forever? Now, as always, I leave the final word to you guys. Please share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys for your time. Thanks for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next video.